que no, he'd said. Got nothing better. He'd figured out afterward that she'd brought him because Mila Sana, a horse-faced Martian girl a little younger than him, had a thing, and they all thought it was funny to watch the ugly inner girl padding around after the half-breed. But by then he didn't care. He'd met Silvestre Campos, and he'd heard of slingshotting. Went like this. Some Koyo put together a boat. Maybe it was salvage, maybe it was fabbed. Probably at least some of it was stolen. Didn't need to be much more than a torch drive, a crash couch, and enough air and water to get the job done. Then it was all about plotting the trajectory. Without an Epstein, torch drive burned pellets too fast to get anyone anywhere, at least not without help. The trick was to plot it so that the burn, and the best only ever used one burn, would put the ship through a gravity assist, suck up the velocity of a planet or moon, and head out as deep as the push would take them. Then figure out how to get back without getting dead. Whole thing got tracked by a double-encrypted black net as hard to break as anything that the Loca Grega or Golden Bough had on offer. Maybe they ran it. It was illegal as hell, and somebody was taking the bets. Dangerous, which was the point. And then, when you got back, everyone knew who you were. You could lounge around in the warehouse party and drink whatever you wanted and talk however you wanted, and drape your hand on Evita Young's right tit, and she wouldn't even move it off. And just like that, Neo, who hadn't ever cared about anything very much, developed an ambition. The thing people have to remember is that the ring isn't magical, the Martian woman said. Neo had spent a lot of time in the past months watching the news feeds about the ring, and so far he liked her the best. Pretty face, nice accent. She wasn't as thick as an Earther, but she didn't belong to the belt either. Like him. We don't understand it yet, and we may not for decades, but the last 2 years have given us some of the most interesting and exciting breakthroughs in materials technology since the wheel. Within the next 10 or 15 years, we're going to start seeing the applications of what we've learned from watching the protomolecule, and it will... Fruit of a poisoned tree, the old leathery-looking Koyo beside her said. We cannot allow ourselves to forget that this was built for mass murder. The criminals and monsters at Protogen and Mao Quick released this weapon on a population of innocents. That slaughter began all of this, and profiting from it makes us all complicit. The feed cut to the moderator, who smiled and shook his head at the leathery one. Rabbi Kimball, the moderator said, we've had contact with an undisputed alien artifact that took over Eros Station, spent a little over a year preparing itself in the vicious pressure cooker of Venus, then launched a massive complex of structures just outside the orbit of Uranus and built a 1,000-kilometer-wide ring. You can't be suggesting that we are morally required to ignore those facts. Himmler's hypothermia experiments at Dachau, the leathery Koyo began, wagging his finger in the air. But now it was the pretty Martian's turn to interrupt. Can we move past the 1940s, please? She said, smiling in a way that said, I'm being friendly, but shut the fuck up. We're not talking about space Nazis here. This is the single most important event in human history. Protogen's role in it was terrible, and they've been punished for it. But now we have to... Not space Nazis, the old Koyo yelled. The Nazis aren't from space. They are right here among us. They're the beasts of our worst nature. By profiting from these discoveries, we legitimize the path by which we came to them. The pretty one rolled her eyes and looked at the moderator like she wanted help. The moderator shrugged at her, which only made the old one angrier. The ring is a temptation to sin, the old Koyo shouted. There were little flecks of white at the corners of his mouth that the video editor had chosen to leave visible. We don't know what it is, the pretty one said.